Well, a lot of Americans begin this new year feeling uncertain over where the economy is headed and how it will impact our own financial health. So many conflicting stories about plentiful jobs, higher wages, and persistent inflation, potential recession. This week, two economists tried to boil it all down at the Vermont State House, delivering their semi-annual forecast to Governor Phil Scott and the four chairs of the House and Senate Money Committees. They projected higher tax revenues than expected this year, nearly $150 million more dollars. But they said general fund revenues are going to fall next year about 9%. Bottom line, they see what they called an unusual amount of downside risk. So we asked these two to join us here and help us understand some of the economic factors at play for the state and for our own households in the year ahead. Joining us this morning, two of Vermont's top economists. You have seen them here before. On the left, Jeff Carr, economist for the administration. On the right, Tom Covet, who analyzes the numbers for the legislature. Welcome back to NBC5 In Depth.
Thank you, Stuart.
At this week's e-board meeting, you had a lot of good news. Revenues are back to pre-pandemic levels. Labor market's tight. Wages are up. Billions of dollars still rippling through the Vermont economy. And yet most of your 40-minute explainer to the governor and the money chairs was cautionary. Why? Tom?
It's a mixed bag. There's good news and bad news in the mix of things. And the bad news is yet to come, and we're experiencing lots and lots of good news on a number of fronts. But it really is mixed, and that's part of the reason for that kind of a conversation.
Jeff?
Well, I mean, the good news is tax revenues are back to and above where they were pre-pandemic. The bad news is it's come about because of this massive or huge or epic, pick your superlative, amount of federal pandemic assistance that's come in the form of stimulus monies has come to the state. And what it's done is it's helped us to get back to above pre-pandemic levels, but we're doing it with 13,600 fewer jobs in the Vermont economy. So that tells you what the importance gives you a hint about the importance of that federal money has been to us.
Well, the revenue upgrade was pretty significant by any historic standards, but the federal spending, the pandemic spending is going to dry up. There is still unspent money in the IRA and the infrastructure package. But from a typical household family's finance point of view, how do you think Vermonters are feeling? Where are the risks? Jeff?
Well, I think to start with, I think people are starting to feel a little apprehensive. On one side, we've seen the price of a gallon of gasoline come down, and that's an item that everybody spends a lot of money for, which makes them feel a little bit better. But now they got to spend that money on other items like eggs and things like that. So that's why I think it's a very mixed bag. I mean, we just got a retail sales number out today nationally, which said that people pulled back a little bit in December on their holiday spending. And, spending is what drives things for us. We got off to a decent start to the winter ski season, and then we had the kind of a little bit of a weather hiccup. So we lost a little over the Christmas and New Year's time period, and that money will come in later this month to see where it is. So on one hand, you feel a little bit better about things. On the other hand, there are some tangible items, the increase in prices, everything feels like it's more expensive. And then there's also some talk about, as the Fed works hard to drive inflation down by increasing interest rates, which means everybody pays a little bit more for what they borrow. And then we're talking about, even if things work out well, we're going to have a soft landing, which means that's not too different from getting down into a downturn in the economy. I think there's reason to be apprehensive, and with the extra added unknown about how this money is going to wind its way through the rest of the time and how we might get from where we are with all this money back down to good old-fashioned relying on economic fundamentals. Nobody really knows completely how this is going to unwind and what the exact timing is.
Jeff,
I would add too, Stuart, if you look at aggregates, and again, there's a lot of dispersion within that in terms of individual households and individuals and families, but overall, household net worth on every wealth percentile level is up strongly. So even the bottom 50% net worth is roughly double what it was pre-pandemic. And that's not all liquid assets. So initially, when the pandemic monies flowed, one of the first things people did was pay down credit card debt, which is a terrific thing to do. It reached record low levels. It's now, though, building back up. It's almost back to where it was pre-pandemic. And that's what's kept consumer spending going, is people dipping into savings, people using credit cards more. And that can't run too long, especially with interest rates so high. The interest payments on the credit cards will be unbearable for those that are using them in that way.
Yeah. You talk about good news, bad news. Wages are up, but inflation's eating away at that new purchasing power. Stock market was down 20%, the S&P down 20% last year. So we don't feel as wealthy on paper. And you two are supposed to add all of that up and give the governor and the legislature, some crystal ball. It's tough.
Well, it's a highly uncertain, very uncertain environment right now, subject to a lot of volatility. And then you throw in on top of that the first ground war in Eastern Europe and how that's affected commodity prices since the end of World War II. And we're going into a period where if the Fed can thread the needle, and that's a big if, we're going to just sneak by without avoiding a recession. Even if we have a mild and relatively short recession, not like what we had back in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, it still could have significant impacts on revenues and, more importantly, also on the cost side of the budget. So this is a very, very, very uncertain and potentially volatile time. And then if you throw on top of that the possibility now that we're talking about a credit default because we don't raise the debt ceiling, when you're very close to being in a recession, all it takes is something like that for people to lose confidence in the economy, where a mild and short recession could become much more significant and have much more far-reaching and wide-ranging impacts from everything households pay for the interest rates on their credit cards. If we default, the interest rates could shoot up. And then if all of a sudden dollar denomination commodity prices and things like that, like they are around the world, because they believe that the U.S. will always pay its bills. If all of a sudden the rest of the world doesn't believe the U.S. is going to pay its bills, who's going to buy the debt that we're issuing to deal with the deficits that we've accumulated since the start of the downturn?
Well, that's
the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother scary thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, Stuart, the thing that is most difficult is what Jeff alluded to earlier in terms of the epic response to the pandemic. And it's really important to keep in mind that even though epidemiologically we're not suffering in the way that we were in, with earlier variants of COVID and all, that a series of things have changed as a result of the pandemic, and they are unprecedented, including this enormous wave of money that's washed over the state. If that had ever happened before, most of our models being historical, we could look at that and say, last time we got $10 billion from the federal government, here's what happened, and here's how long it took and everything else.
Right.
We don't have that. And so that's uncharted territory. And that's why that's part of the capacity people have to blunt the effects of interest rate increases the Fed is making to try to slow the economy down. And it's taking longer than would normally be the case. And that's why revenues are remaining strong now. But that's just going to cause the Fed to push harder on the brake. And at some point, there'll be a more pronounced slowdown.
It's over $16,000 per person in Vermont. So if you're sitting there, a couple with one child, the federal money that came is almost equivalent to $50,000 for that particular household.
The governor asked I thought, a pretty good question of you guys during the e-board meeting. He said, aren't we somewhat insulated from recession in Vermont and a big shock to our labor markets in Vermont, given that, so much of the largesse that you just alluded to from Congress in Vermont has not yet been spent. So there will still be a lot of demand for construction jobs, for years to come.
Yeah, no, and money that not just new money from the infrastructure bill that I think he was focused on, and that's got a 5-year kind of spread, but money that was pandemic money that was allocated and put in the state's bank account, and then a program was developed to disperse it, and then it's going out. Some of that is still sitting in the state's bank and waiting to go out to the recipients, even if they've been identified. And it's when it hits the ground that it really has impact. So that is adding to inflationary pressures because there's yet more spending. And it will be beneficial in terms of blunting a downturn, but it's not going to erase it.
Home prices, the big run up during the pandemic, where do you see that aspect of the economy in the next few years? Are we leveling off?
We've had 3 major real estate cycles since the mid 1980s in Vermont. Real estate markets don't move in exactly the same way as the rest of the economy. You can have an entire business cycle, and real estate can be immune from that, depending on what causes it. The last recession, the Great Recession, real estate was at the epicenter of it, and it was the first time that housing prices declined in almost every state. There was only one state that did not have real estate price declines. That was North Dakota, and that was due to some unusual energy-related businesses that they had. But we've seen an enormous run-up in price, as is typical. Vermont was a little bit slow to the party, but now is right up there with very high states. We've had 18, 21, and 19% year-over-year growth in the last 3 quarters using the FHFA data, which are the best data on home prices. And so that is first going to slow. It doesn't happen overnight. And we expect to see some declines, but we haven't had a period of a lot of building, which would normally occur. The price run-up was more an asset price inflation mechanism than it was from too much supply and a long period of time where prices were growing because of the imbalance in supply and demand, and then supply grew. So we've had very few additions to stock in this period. So there'll still be a period of negative prices, but it may not last as long as it typically does.
Economists Jeff Carr and Tom Cavett. On Friday afternoon, Governor Scott incorporated their new revenue numbers into his $8.4 billion budget, which the governor presented to the legislature. Notably, he wants to reserve a big chunk of today's cash for known future expenses, like the state match for infrastructure, for example. We'll have more on that next week. Coming up this Sunday, we'll catch up with